Hello and welcome to the A-Level Italian presentation. We are so delighted that you are considering studying A-Level Italian for what is such an enriching and amazing course. So why learn Italian? You can see here lots of different reasons to learn Italian, aside from the fact that it is just such a delightful language to learn. It will really make you stand out. Ultimately, there are fewer people that study Italian. It's a minority learned language when you compare it to French and Spanish, for example, but it comes with it so much culture, which students find really rewarding. You can also see here how much of a draw Italy is with its tourism, and also with how much of a valuable asset it is to the UK economy. The Italian-speaking world, Italian is spoken all over the world, mainly by different immigrant communities, but of course the main focus is centered around Italy, parts of Switzerland, the Vatican City and San Marino. It doesn't necessarily, though, make it a less important language to learn, because ultimately Italian, the Italian business is so important across the world. And as I said before, it really is bringing with it so much culture and culinary delights as well. Okay, so what are the themes then that we study on the A-level course? So the first theme is looking at the changes in Italian society. So whereas GCSE was very much focused on talking about your own family, talking about your own experiences of education, talking about your future plans for work, for the Italian A-level course, it's setting it in the Italian-speaking context. It's setting it in Italy. So, you know, why are there changing attitudes towards marriage and divorce? And why is it that so many young people in Italy live at home? And actually, we can draw comparisons with our own society from all of these themes as well. How does the Italian education system work? What is the world of work like in Italy? And with theme 2, we look at Italian music. We look at the evolution of Italian music, going all the way from the very beginning through to opera, regional music, and into current day trends for rap, reggaeton, and of course the success of some Italian artists who have become global superstars in recent years and in the recent decades. We also look at the mass media. So how is the media presented in Italy? Where are the press biases? How has the use of media changed, particularly since the pandemic, with things such as fake news, social media, etc. And we also look at cultural heritage, which again is an extension on the GCSE theme. So looking at customs, traditions, beliefs across Italy. There are so many different festivals. We'll just zoom in on a few, and we really get into the Italian mindset with that. It's really the year 2 themes which are the most exciting, I think. I love doing the year 1 themes, but I'm more of a political and historical girl myself. So this is where I think that we're going from transitioning from points of interest with a crossover from the GCSE into something that feels distinctly more A-level. And again, whereas the first themes are giving us that global awareness, I think it really does come out in the second year themes. So we look at this Italy, society and evolution. So looking at immigration, looking at emigration as well. Italy was a country of emigration for a long time, much before it became a country of immigration. We also look at the North-South divide. And within that, we look at the economy, the crime, and also mafia as well. Italy, if you have ever been, feels very different in its different regions. So we explore the reasons for that. And then we also look at from fascism to today. So we look at how Mussolini got into power, the birth of the fascist party. So in case you're unaware, Italy had a dictator called Mussolini from the 1920s into the 1940s. He, in some ways, inspired Adolf Hitler and then was allied with the Germans. So we look at that fascinating part of Italy's history, very tragic part of Italy's history, and we look at what life was like under Mussolini, and of course we look at the fall of Mussolini as well, and his rather gory and gruesome and tragic end. So what do the exams look like? There's 3 different papers. First paper is 2 hours long. It's the listening, reading and translation, and it's translation into English. The section A, so the listening part, students have control over the listening. It's not like GCSE where you had to listen to the recording twice and then you were moving on to the next question. You are in complete control. You can listen backwards and forwards to it as long as you want. Paper 2 is the longest exam. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is a really generous amount of time, actually, I think. Within that time, you need to write an essay on the book that we study and an essay on the film that we study. You have a choice of questions for those, and there's a translation from English into Italian based on one of the topics that we will have studied. For the speaking exam, there are 2 tasks. The first task is a discussion based on a card, which has some information on it based on one of the 4 themes that we've studied, including a wider discussion on that theme. And then task 2, which I'll talk to you about in momentarily, is called the independent research presentation. For that, students can research into anything that interests them to do with Italy and Italian culture. And essentially they become the experts on it. They spend some time researching it and they present it in the exam and they're asked questions on it. So there's a lot of control, I think, in that speaking exam. Previously, we've had students looking at over-tourism in Venice. We've had students looking at the Italian fashion industry. That was by somebody who was then going off to university to study fashion with a view to maybe completing some work experience further down the line in Italy. We've also had students look at historical periods as well, and even looking at the Italian diet. You can see here we've also had Gianni Versace, the Italian royal family, Mussolini's personal life, Puccini, the occupation of Libya, etc. So it's a really interesting and I think really fantastic preparation for university, where maybe you are having to decide your own areas of specialism, areas of research, and it's developing those research skills. Where are you finding your information from? How can you judge a credibility of a source? So for film and literature, we do, for our literary text, we do Volevo I pantaloni per la Riccardella. It's a fairly short story exploring the injustices faced by women in Sicily during the 60s, 70s and 80s. So it's a feminist piece of literature. And for the films, we study La Vita è Bella. Maybe you've watched it. In my opinion, it's one of the best films I've ever watched. We partly choose as well the book and the film based around the topics. So Volevo I pantaloni is exploring that north-south divide, and La Vita è Bella is set during Mussolini's time in government. So going from 1938 with the introduction of the racial laws all the way through to around 1943, 1944, when Italy at that point is effectively divided into 2 countries and the northern part is run by Nazi Germany. So the different trips that we offer, there is the opportunity to organise your own work experience, possibly through an external company. So just talk to us about that. It's almost like going off on a mini Project Trident for a week. And our study visit, our fantastic study visit, where students can immerse themselves in an Italian host family for a week, where we go to Florence for a day, we go to Pisa for the afternoon. We're based in Lucca, which is a lovely town in Tuscany. We do some cookery workshop. We do all the cultural things, we eat all the food, and students just absolutely love this trip. And it's so exciting to see how excited everybody gets when we go on this trip. And I know that the Italian department also really do treasure this opportunity to go away to Tuscany for the week. So just a few facts then, really. Just a reminder about how well valued languages are in the workplace. And in fact, people that speak more than one language, depending which job they do, unfortunately, it's not the same for teachers, in case you're wondering, but you can ultimately get more on top of your salary. In fact, I've seen some more recent statistics that suggest that as languages and linguists are in such short supply, it can go up to 32% more on top of your salary. We've still got all these uncertainties around Brexit. How is that going to impact for the foreseeable future, really, on the UK economy? Learning that language and building that cultural bridge with our neighbours in Europe is so important. Of course, it's really important. It's so enriching from a personal life point of view as well. Traveling, connecting with people, appreciating cultural diversity. And I really do think that Italy and Italian offers you some fantastic opportunities. And of course, a few somewhat depressing headlines really here. It's costing the economy 50 billion a year. The fact that we are currently in a language skills drought. They are the currency of the 21st century. We cannot expect everybody to be learning English. It just doesn't work that way, especially with the UK's departure from the EU. And lots of studies have shown that actually learning languages is key to the UK's success in the global economy. Studying Italian A-level of course, isn't just teaching you a language, but it's also teaching you how to learn a language. So we have had students, after continuing their language A-levels with the languages on offer at JCG, they then go off to university and pick up other languages because the foundations have been laid. It's a bit like, learning how to play the violin and then being able to pick up the cello if you're learning maybe from Italian into Portuguese, and then learning the bagpipes if you're, as one of our students has really successfully done, one of our past students who has gone on to study Mandarin and is currently working on picking up other languages as well. So I hope really that's given you a good overview of the A-level Italian course. If you have any further questions, please just do not hesitate to get in touch with the Italian colleagues here at JCG. We can answer any of your other questions. And I suppose all that's left to say really is grazie mille and arrivederci. Ciao.